And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, March 25th. I am Josh Engleman, joined by DK. He's right there. We're brought to you by us. You should be signing up at Stokastic or OddsShopper, whether you want to play DFS on the NBA side, MLB side, MMA, PGA. I can name a bunch of other sports, NHL as well. Whether you want to hit pick'em sites or sports books, we've got you covered across the board. If you watch sports and you want something to sweat, we have everything that you could possibly want to do to make yourself better at doing that kind of stuff. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. 8-game slate, both sites. So nothing weird going on here. Same stuff on both sides. DK, how are you? You excited?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good late swap slate because we have Oklahoma City and Sacramento. A lot of Q tags there. That's a late game. So I kind of like the way that this slate sets up. It's the last Millie Maker of the year as well. So ready to light some more money on fire. But yeah, I think overall it's going to be a pretty good slate.
Anything good for you yesterday?
No, I forget what happened yesterday. What happened?
DeAndre Jordan, Nuggets.
Yeah. Oh no, I had Vooch and he was pretty bad. I was waiting for that Denver starting lineup. I had Westbrook, pivoted from Westbrook to Vooch once Westbrook was not starting, and yeah, Vooch floor game and Westbrook had a good game off the bench. So basically Kobe White just did everything. So. And Hawkins injury too. I forgot about that. Sure. I had him.
I'm excited to throw to you for the first team so I could text my wife back because she can't find the remote to the TV upstairs. And
okay.
Yes, that's super relevant right now at a time where I can do literally nothing about it. But shout out to the wife. You want to break this bad boy down?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go. First game, Orlando Magic, 5.5-point favorites in Charlotte. 213.5 total. So Orlando, kind of the same thing we're used to at this point. Cole Anthony's doubtful. Everybody else is available like they normally are. We are getting a bit of love here on the DraftKings side. 15% ownership to Anthony Black, to Wendell Carter Jr., basically to Franz, and then Paolo is sitting at 20. We've got Paolo ranked 7th in the boom bust tool. Anthony Black and Wendell Carter Jr. bookend each other at 17 and 18, and then Franz is at 21. Lots of good stuff there. And then everybody else just looks like you would never roster them. So my question to you is, how are you feeling about Orlando? What stands out most?
Yeah, so I would say the two spend ups are the guys I like the best right now. It's going to be Paolo and Franz. Right now, Paolo around 20%, Franz around 10%. Since returning from All-Star break, Franz has a 34% usage rate. Franz Wagner about 30% usage rate. And then drops all the way down to Cole Anthony, who's probably not going to play around 20%. So, yeah, those two are, kind of doing everything right now for the Magic. They're also playing big minutes, too, in competitive games. You saw 38 minutes last game there for Franz Wagner, 40 for Paolo. So, this game does stay competitive. You should see those guys playing pretty good minutes. So those two look pretty good on a slate where there's not a lot of amazing spend ups right now. If you look at the slate overall, you have just three guys over 10K. So, yeah, I think those two look like pretty good options right now. The only downside is It is an early game. And as we talked about, we do have some, questionable tags, specifically in that Oklahoma City game. But yeah, those are the two that I like the best. Keep an eye on the starting lineup as well. Anthony Black has been playing pretty well. I think there's a chance he could start over Corey Joseph. We'll see. Either way, he is someone that is also a pretty good point per dollar option, whether he starts or not. If he starts, I like him a little bit better. But 3,800 getting about 15% ownership. I think he's a pretty solid option. And then no real strong takes in Wendell Carter Jr. He's always like a filler guy for me, around 15%, 5,200. Pretty consistently playing around 30 minutes. So he's like a fine last guy in there. But yeah, other than that, as you mentioned, there's really nothing else I would get to. Magic running a relatively deep rotation. So it's just those four, but specifically Paolo and Franz that I like the best.
Paolo's the guy that I have the most of. Well, technically I have more of Anthony Black, but in terms of pay up options, 23% of Paolo. So right there with the field. I'm right there with the field on Franz. I'm basically right there with the field on Wendell Carter Jr. The guy I have the biggest stand on is Anthony Black. I got to 24%. He's only 15% owned. I don't love that, but I don't hate it either. I understand why it's happening. He looks good. The price tag's great. The minutes seem fine, and it seems like he could get more. But I do hate locking in a guy that's just like a guy in the 7 o'clock window. Like, I like Anthony Black, but will we get better value in the stack of 8 games that we have later? Maybe. So I'm happy to be with the field. I don't know if he's the guy I want to take a stand on, but he clearly looks good. And those 4 guys are essentially the only guys I'm getting. I got 1 share of KCP. Okay. Don't have anything else here. I think you really just funnel to those 4 guys in a big way. The FanDuel side is a little different. Wendell Carter Jr. is really not on the table since it's center only. He doesn't have the power forward eligibility. Franz and Paolo are both 30% owned. They ranked 5th and 6th. And then Anthony Black is not the same value. He's 4,500 on FanDuel, only 12% owned. So it really funnels to Franz and Paolo on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's a little bit more open. Let's check out Charlotte. Okay. This one's pretty easy. It's dog shit. So Josh Okogie's questionable. Otherwise, it's the same stuff we normally have for Charlotte. 1% ownership for LaMelo Ball. I got 1 share. He ranks 71st. That's the best of anybody on DraftKings. If we talk about it on FanDuel, we get to 3% ownership to LaMelo Ball. He ranks 50th. Terrible matchup, super slow. Charlotte's not good to begin with. You anticipating rostering anything from the Hornets?
Nope. They're basically a full cross-off for me. Again, LaMelo, the only guy over 1% ownership. 9,500 though, kind of tough price to pay. Not a great spot either. Yeah, I mean, this is another team that, they're running a relatively deep rotation. Like, they played 10 guys last game. Diabate played a little bit more so in the second half. Yeah, there's just not a ton here, especially in the match against the Magic, low total. This is basically full cross-off.
Yeah. 1 share of LaMelo and nobody else. They almost have 4 other guys in their starting lineup, all ranked 100 or worse. Mark Williams is at 98. Ugh. There's I have nothing to add here. It is a complete avoid. Let me just put this out there. If you like LaMelo today, go for it. Like, he's the one you can click on. Ignore everything else.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I would have said that Nurk would be playable if Diabate would have DNP'd last game, but he played a little bit there in the second half. It just they've been playing the 3 centers for most of the games here recently. So if they continue to do that, yeah, it's there's almost no one you can get to.
All right, well then let's keep it moving. Let's go to San Antonio. Spurs are 10.5 point dogs in Detroit, 233 total. One of the higher totals for the day. We do have to pay attention to San Antonio. Stephon Castle is questionable. We also need to have a little bit of conversation about the center spot, but we have 18% ownership coming into Keldon Johnson, 11 to Chris Paul. They're the only 2 guys that are north of 10% owned. Jeremy Sohan is 12% optimal, 9% owned. Let's start here. Are you assuming they are going Biyombo or back to Sohan at center?
I think Biyombo, but that's not super confident. Do you have a lean one way or the other?
I assume Biyombo, and I assume he's going to play the beginning of the first quarter, beginning of the third quarter, and nothing else unless this game is out of hand. I was probably a little too aggressive to Sohan this morning on the strategy show. A little bit not correct on Biyombo. So we've pinched those guys together now. Biyombo, 3,500. You're not going that way. But power forward center, 5,600 for Sohan still. Is that a guy you want to get to?
Yeah, even if he comes off the bench, I still think that Sohan's playable. Obviously would like him more if he's starting. We've seen him in a couple starts play mid 30s minutes, played 38 there against New York, 35 against Philadelphia. So, but yeah, even off the bench, I think he's viable. Like I said, I think he's basically going to play all the non-Biyombo minutes. So, still someone you can get to in the mid-range for sure. Okay.
How do you feel about Chris Paul? Because the minutes are just kind of in and around that 24 mark every day, but price is coming down. He's 4,700 on a point per dollar basis. He looks really good. 10% owned. We actually have him 15th coming out of the boom bust tool. Do you feel the same way?
I think he's a decent point per dollar play. Obviously, I would like him a lot more if Stephon Castle is out. So that's like the big one that I'm waiting for is whether or not Castle is in. Because if Castle gets ruled out, I think Chris Paul probably picks up a couple extra minutes. He's gonna have the ball in chance more too. Like potential assists on Stephon Castle have been he's actually been averaging more potential assists over the last 5 games than Chris Paul. So yeah, if he gets rolled out, I mean, either way, Chris Paul's in play. But if Castle gets rolled out, like Chris Paul is going to benefit. I think pick up a couple of extra minutes and then more ball handling too.
Okay. I pulled up the FanDuel salaries and ownership for these guys. Everybody's under 10%. The only guy that got in the top 30 was Keldon Johnson. So there's not a lot on the FanDuel side. This is much more a DraftKings scenario, unless we lose Stephon Castle. Quickly, let's touch on Keldon Johnson. Even if Castle is in, 4,600, the most popular Spur, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Good per minute guy, can play his way into a couple extra minutes if need be. Will absolutely look better if Castle ends up out. He's the guy I like the most here for San Antonio.
Yeah, I think right now he's the easiest to get to. I think you're probably expecting mid-20s minutes, maybe a little bit more in a competitive game. As you mentioned, he's a pretty good point per minute player as well. Just looking over the last 5 games, 1.06 fantasy point per minute player. So, relatively cheap price point there. Pretty consistent role. So at the moment, I think I agree. He's the easiest guy to get to on San Antonio.
Okay. If Castle is out, what do we do here? Let's start here. Who do you think starts if Castle is out?
I think it's going to be Champagny at 3,800. And if that is the case, I think that would make Champagny one of the better values on the slate. He's been pretty consistently playing like low 20s minutes off the bench. If he moves into the starting lineup, I think you're expecting mid to high 20s minutes. He's got shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Again, not a bad point per minute player either. So if he moves in the starting lineup there, I think becomes one of the better values in the slate.
We're on the same page there. 3,800, best positional eligibility. You give him a couple extra minutes and things are going to look really good here. Who else gets the big bump? I think Chris Paul is live to play more minutes in that scenario. But do you think you'd be looking at Blake Wesley or like Malachi Branham in that scenario?
Yeah, I think Wesley would be playable. 3,300. He's last 4 games, 22, 16, 19, 26 minutes. Now, that most recent game was a blowout. He got extended, but he's someone I think would pick up a couple extra minutes and would be in play. You're going to get a little bit more usage for a guy like Devin Vassell as well. We've seen some big Devin Vassell games. I don't love the price point on him, but I would definitely have some more interest in Vassell if Castle gets rolled out. So, Vassell more usage. Wesley, I think, picks up a couple extra minutes, would be in play. And then, like Champagny would look amazing. Keldon will look a little bit better. This whole team will look a little bit better. Maybe you would get a few extra minutes for a guy like Harrison Barnes too. I think would be playable 3,900 as well.
There we go. Spurs looking pretty good today, guys. At least on the DraftKings side. Castle could change it up on the FanDuel end. Reminder that they just don't look very good.
Yeah, and then last thing on Castle, if he does play, I actually like him as a tournament option. Usage has been great recently. If you're taking a look at the last 5 games, he's got 30% usage rate. Again, he's leading the team potential assists as well. I know the minutes have been a little bit up and down, but there have been some blowouts. Last couple competitive games, he played 35, 36 minutes. So if he is in there, I actually like him as a contrarian option.
All righty. Let's hop over to Detroit. They're kind of tough here. Cade Cunningham is questionable. Tim Hardaway Jr. is questionable. Those 2 things are going to matter quite a bit. We got about 10% ownership coming into Asar Thompson, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. A little bit of ownership coming into Beef Stew and to Cade. Do you have any lean here? Have you looked into this at all? You expecting Cade or Tim Hardaway Jr. to play? Obviously, Cade is the more important piece here.
Yeah, I lean that Cade will play. He was at shoot around. I think that game that he sat out was more so for like rest purposes. So pretty sure that Cade will play today. Tim Hardaway Jr. Not as sure, but again, I don't think that's super important. Cade's the big one.
All right. Do you like anything here? Because we kind of just have these guys all looking the same. 10% optimal to Asar, 9 to Tobias Harris, 11 to Jalen Duren, 7 to Cade. Like, seems like all these guys are about 10% owned, and they kind of just should be. Do you see it different?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start with Asar, and he's in the most ownership right now. Don't love that. The role hasn't been great for him with Tobias Harris back. minutes have not been amazing. Also, you did see Ron Holland play really well off the bench last game. Maybe Ron Holland earned a few extra minutes because of that. So Asar's in the most ownership. Again, this is an early game too. Assuming Cade is in, I think he's going a little bit over-owned right now. Duren at 7,200 is around 10%. That feels about right. In a competitive game, if he avoids foul trouble, you're looking at like 28-ish minutes or so. 29, 28, 27, 29 minutes over the last 4 competitive games there for Duren. So yeah, I think he's someone that's, feels about right for ownership. He's playable in tournaments. We know the ceiling's there. We also know the floor is there though too. He is, relatively foul prone, but in a matchup against like Biyombo or Sohan, probably a little bit better chance of him avoiding foul trouble. Cade Cunningham, assuming he plays, coming in around 5%, I think is a decent tournament option. We don't have a lot of spend ups on the slate, as we talked about a little bit earlier. The ceiling's massive on Cade. So I think he's kind of sneaky as a GPP play. And then, I'm indifferent on Tobias Harris. He's coming around 10% as well. He's always like a last guy in for me when this team's fully healthy, usually playing low 30s minutes in competitive games.
Just a point quickly on the FanDuel side for Detroit. They're less interesting on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. 13% ownership to Jalen Duren, the only guy in double digits. I will say Malik Beasley got to 15% optimal. He's the most optimal guy from the Pistons. So a little sneakier on the FanDuel side, only 9% owned, so maybe a hair under owned, but these guys just don't look as good. That will change if Cade Cunningham happens to be out. So make sure you're paying attention to that news. We want to make sure that we know if he is in. Game locks at 7, which means we will know this information sometime around 6:30 during Live Before Lock. That's why you watch Live Before Lock, because we got 2 games locking at 7, and we're going to get 4 starting lineups. We're going to get all the news for these first 2 games. Might even get some of the 7:30 news just before Live Before Lock ends. So make sure you're watching Greg and Eric from 6 to 7, and then make sure you're watching Greg and I on Playback tonight from 7 to 8. We're live there right now, sharing OddsShopper, giving out bets. But from 7 to 8, Greg and I are going to be watching a game. We're going to be talking about ownership, late swaps, potentially some betting angles for the rest of the night. It's the best place to be because we're going to have late swaps heading into 7:30, and we're going to have late swaps potentially heading into 8 o'clock for another game locking. Playback is the spot. Costs you nothing, totally free. Playback.tv/Stokastic is where you guys want to be. Come in, watch the game if you have League Pass. If you don't, we have 20 VIP passes we hand out. If we don't have one of those, then you're just listening to Greg and I, but you're still getting the same information. And that's pretty darn good. So that's what we got going on for the rest of the night. Now, we're going to get into game number 3, the Golden State Warriors and Jimmy Butler making his return to the Miami Heat. Warriors are 5.5-point favorites in Miami, 216 total. This is not a good DFS game. And you can tell by the screen, no one in the top 30 for Golden State. Jimmy Butler ranking 39th. He's 4% owned. That's the most of anybody on Golden State. He's also 6% optimal. So we're not expecting anything crazy there. We are waiting on news. Steph Curry is questionable. Maybe that makes things look a little bit different, but my expectation is having very little exposure to the Golden State Warriors today.
Yep, I am in agreement with you. Steph Curry, questionable. I kind of lean that he's more on the probable side. He was able to practice yesterday, traveled with the team. They said he's going to warm up and see how he feels. But I kind of think that he will play here. If he's in, I think it's pretty hard to get to anyone on this team. Jimmy Butler right now getting the most ownership, coming in around 4%. Jimmy Butler's role has been good of late. If you're looking at the last 5 games, he's averaging 16.6 potential assists per game. So he's got the ball in his hands a ton. The usage has been solid as well. Revenge game against Miami, so maybe he's going to be a little bit more aggressive. So like if I had to play someone in Golden State, I think it would be Jimmy Butler. But yeah, assuming Steph is in, I don't love the price point there. And then I think it's pretty hard to get to anyone else on this team. Draymond's price is up. Kuminga feels priced right. I'm not going to mess with the Golden State value. Podziemski's price is up too. So definitely one of the more unappealing teams on the slate.
Butler looking a little bit better on the FanDuel side, 8,500, small forward, power forward eligible. He's 12% owned, 14% optimal. Nobody's owned more than 5% on the FanDuel side. So if you're playing on FanDuel and you want to get to a Warrior, right now it's Jimmy Butler. What do you think changes if Steph's out? Obviously, like Podziemski's going to look better. Moody's going to look better. Mm-hmm. Butler obviously is going to have a massive usage bump in that scenario. What is Jonathan Kuminga the guy that we should pay attention to most if Steph ends up out, or are we looking at
Yeah,
one of the guards?
You're going to feel a little bit better about the minutes for Kuminga. Kuminga's, decent point per minute player as well. So, like, I think he would be firmly in play there. I think Podziemski, you're going to feel a little bit better about his minutes, 6,300. He would have a little bit more of a playmaking role as well. Steph is out, and then the massive usage and ball handling role there for Jimmy Butler as well as Steph gets rolled out. So I think those three would probably be the first I would look to: Butler, Podziemski, and Kuminga. I still don't know if I would get to like Moody or Hield or Gary Payton, guys like that. But yeah, I think those three would be the first that I would look to.
Okay. Yeah. So keep your eyes on that one. Steph news is big. We'll see if he's going to be in. It would be kind of cool if he's not, and Butler just goes out there with like a 40% usage and tries to give him the business. Do you do anything different in a scenario like this? Do you try to play any sort of narrative? Because the NBA is slightly different in that Jimmy Butler can control this to a degree. He can lean into it a little bit. Do you care?
It depends. I don't put like a ton of weight into it, but like I said, I would not be shocked if he's going to come out and be a little more aggressive. But it's kind of hard for me, I guess. Like, what do you do in situations like this?
So I tend to look at these situations the exact opposite way that we're talking about. I tend to think that more casuals in a contest are going to click Jimmy Butler because of it, and he will be owned more than we expect to begin with. And at that point in time, I think that he ends up showing up as a worse play in data, even though we don't have it necessarily like that. Like, we have him projected on DraftKings for 4% ownership. I think it's going to be a bit higher than that. And there's nothing that we can do in our ownership to like manually manipulate that every day. But people are going to click Jimmy Butler's name on purpose today for no other reason than he plays the Heat. And if he's just going to come in, like, let's say he comes in 9% owned. I'm happy to like not have as much in that scenario because I think he's over owned. But so I tend to go the opposite direction for these scenarios with the expectation that these guys are just going to pick up too much love.
Yeah, I saw some sharp people that I respect on Twitter like taking Jimmy Butler under props because I feel like a lot of people are just like hammering his overs. So it's for me, it's hard. Like, sometimes I'll play into a little bit, sometimes not. But yeah, I like that take because you feel like the casual players are going to want to play him in a spot like this. Yeah,
and that's where ownership tends to be off the most. Like, we can't model for the 15,000 entries in the mini max that people played one lineup and entered it on their phone by hand. Those are the situations where like you just naturally click on names that you know, and Jimmy Butler playing in Miami is the most important one out of all of them. Then we go to Miami. Now, the Miami Heat are actually a slightly more appealing here. Duncan Robinson's questionable, so we have to pay attention to that news. We have 25% ownership coming into the opposite side of this revenge narrative. Andrew Wiggins, small forward, power forward eligible, 6,300, 26% optimal, 27% owned in 24% of my stuff. Is Andrew Wiggins the best option for the Heat?
Yeah. 6,300 is a reasonable price point. Miami in their most recent game ran a very tight rotation. They played basically a 7-man rotation for most of the game. You saw Alec Burks come in the second half and play 8 minutes. You saw Jaime Jaquez play 5 minutes in the first half, and that was it. So, Wiggins, reasonable price point here. Price point, again, 6,300 is a good price there for him. So, yeah, I think he is right now your best option on Miami.
I agree. And I think we have to pay attention to the centers, too. Khalil Ware is 5,500, center only, 10% owned, 10% optimal, ranks 24th. Bam is 8,200, power forward, center eligible. 16% optimal, 16% owned. He's in 19% of my stuff. Where? Bam? Both? How are you looking at the bigs here?
Yeah, so I'm not as high in Khalil Ware. A little bit worried in a matchup like this that maybe Miami switches up the starting lineup or he gets limited minutes. I could see Davion moving into the starting lineup there and, maybe having Khalil Ware off the bench. So Ware worries me a little bit. Again, I'm not as confident in his minutes. He's getting around 10% ownership. If you told me he's going to play, high 20s minutes, then yeah, I would be all about it. But we've seen kind of his minutes fluctuate a lot. If you're just looking at like, I'm bringing up the box score last like 6 games, 18 minutes, 15 minutes, 36 minutes, 19, 33, 35, 28. So it's kind of matchup dependent. And in a small ball matchup against Golden State, I'm a little bit worried about the minutes there for Khalil Ware.
Okay. How about Bam? He's got that power forward eligibility on both sites now, DraftKings and FanDuel. He's about 15 to 20% owned across both. I'm happy to get him here. I think this is a decent enough spot for Bam. And on a day where we don't really have like awesome pay up options, I don't mind living in the 8K range either.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with Bam. I would like Bam a little bit more if they bring Khalil Ware off the bench. Rebounding numbers will go up a bit there for Bam in that scenario. So nice that he's got the power forward eligibility. As I said, like, Miami should run a pretty tight rotation here. So Bam, his current ownership, totally fine getting there. Okay.
Do you like anything else here? I mean, I think it's totally fine to get like a little bit of Tyler Hero, but I don't have much else unless the starting lineup is potentially different.
Yeah, I think Hero's fine to get to as a contrarian play. And then Davion Mitchell, again, I kind of lean that he starts just because, defensive matchup against Steph, assuming Steph plays. He's played 35, 32, 34, and 36 minutes over the last 5 games. So right now, I think Davion's kind of a sneaky contrarian play at sub 5% ownership.
And certainly could get the start if Duncan Robinson happens to be out in this one. So pay attention. On the FanDuel side, Bam is your most popular Miami Heat player. He's 20% owned, ranks in our top 10. Khalil Ware, not nearly as owned. He doesn't have great eligibility on FanDuel when you can only play one center. He's a bit overpriced for it. Although interesting contrarian option, I guess. Wiggins is still a little popular, but he's 7,100 on FanDuel, so it's not as appealing. Hero looks a little bit better on FanDuel at 8,300, 9% owned, 12% optimal. But we're kind of just looking at the same things. If you're playing people from the Heat, it's probably Hero, Wiggins, Ware, and Bam. It's just slightly different depending on which site we're looking at. All righty. Anything else here for the Heat?
No. Yeah, like I said, I think they're, keep an eye on the Duncan Robinson news, and also they could change the starting lineup even if Duncan's out. Like, you could see Khalil Ware off the bench. You could see, maybe like Highsmith or Haka is thrown in there. You never know with Miami. So I think they could switch up the starting lineup even if Duncan's in.
Duncan Robinson out, Terry Rozier incoming starter. I'm predicting it right now just to really make everybody hate. And then he plays 4 minutes.
Right.
Sounds super fitting. Well, get excited, folks. We get to talk about the Dallas Mavericks, a team that I'm tired of. And we're not going to be getting AD today. Going to be sitting this one out on a back-to-back. Got to let him rest up. That's for sure. Can't be running him out there. You never know what had happened. So for Dallas, no AD. Obviously no Gafford, Lively, Caleb Martin, Omax. PJ Washington questionable. Brandon Williams questionable. It's not exactly like they're drowning in bodies to begin with. We're not really getting any ownership. A little bit of love to Clay on the FanDuel side. Everybody else is single digits. On the DraftKings side, they're unowned completely. 2% to Dinwiddie. Everybody else below that. Do you like anything for Dallas if everybody's in?
No, I think if everyone's in, it's pretty hard to get to this team. So then they have 10 bodies. Would probably spread out the minutes. Don't love the price points here, even with 80 out. So really not much here if the 2 questionable players play.
If we get one of them out, obviously it depends which one. PJ Washington and Brandon Williams projecting very differently today. But do we get to anything here? Like, obviously, if they're both out, they got 8 guys and we got to pay attention to it in some way. But if there's one dude out, do you think we chip off any value here for Dallas? Because I don't really know where it would come from.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know
if Kessler Edwards, right? Out. Like, he's the only guy, I think. I think it's only Kessler Edwards as like an option.
Yeah, because he's 3,800. Again, would probably play decent minutes. Good chance he starts too. So yeah, if you get a scenario like one of those guys out, then I think Kessler Edwards would probably be the guy I'd look to. Hardy's minutes have not been great recently, 10 and 13 minutes, but if Brandon Williams is out, he probably plays a little bit more. Again, I don't think there's one guy specifically. Where I'd be really interested in this team, though, as you said, if both guys are out, because then that's completely different. Then we only have 8 guys, and then I think this is a team that you would want some exposure to. The role for Dinwiddie's been very solid. if you look over the last 5 games, he's averaging over 10 potential assists per game. Usage has been solid as well. So he would be someone that'd be firmly in play there. Kai Jones at 5,100 has been pretty consistent. I think you would probably expect mid to high 20s minutes for him. Najee Marshall would probably start in that scenario and play a lot. And then, yeah, like you would consider like Jaden Hardy for value too, Kessler Edwards. So Dallas and what I'm going to do really depends on the Q tags here, because if they both get rolled out, I think this is a pretty good team to get to.
Yeah, and if they're both in, I won't have anything here. I got 1 share of Clay, and that was it. Like, I will not have anything. Nothing ranks well. FanDuel side, 10% ownership to Clay, 7 to Najee Marshall. These guys will look a little bit more interesting on FanDuel if we lose any bodies. But again, I think you need them both out to really get to anything here. All right, on the Knicks side, they are the most interesting team for at least the top play of the day. Jalen Brunson is out. Miles McBride is out. We're waiting on injury news on Mitchell Robinson, which probably doesn't have a huge impact. But anyway, what we need to talk about is Cam Payne, 4,600, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 49% owned, 59% optimal. He's in 61% of my lineups. He's been the number 1 play of the boom bust tool all day. He played 30 minutes last time out in the same scenario. We only have him at 27.5. He's the best play today. I don't know what else I could say. I assume you feel the same way?
Yeah. Cam Payne looks great. He's going to start and play good minutes here in a competitive game. Played 30 minutes last game. Had a weird rotation, too. I don't know if you noticed. So he played the whole first quarter, and then Tyler Kolek off the bench played the whole second quarter. And Payne did not play at all in the second quarter. But then in the second half, you had Cam Payne play a majority of the second half. He played 10 minutes in the third quarter, and then he played about 8 minutes there in the fourth before getting pulled because of the blowout. So that was kind of a weird first half rotation. I don't think that's going to happen again. So I think there's upside for more minutes here for Cam Payne. So like Stokastic has him for 27.5 right now. Like, yeah, I would not be surprised if he pushes like low to mid 30s minutes. I think that's definitely in the range of outcomes. We know Cam Payne's a good point per minute player as well. He made 60 passes and had 9 potential assists in that game. So yeah, he looks great. And like I said, I think you can play a little bit more than people expect too.
Just to add on here, he's even better on FanDuel. 85% owned, 4,100 point guard, shooting guard eligibility, 90% optimal. You cannot dodge this dude on the FanDuel side. On DraftKings, slightly increased price, only 50% owned, but still the clear number 1 option for today. I think the next guy that we talk about is my number 1 pay up here, and that's going to be Karl Anthony Towns. 10K, center only, 22% owned, 22% optimal. But boy, oh boy, does he have a hell of a good matchup. And honestly, like it might even look better depending on how this breaks. But Kai Jones and Dwight Powell are not going to be the resistance Towns needs. He looks great today.
Yeah. Cat's in a really good spot. I would feel a little bit better about his minutes too if Mitchell Robinson gets rolled out and he's questionable. So either way, though, like there's no resistance there, whether it be Kai Jones or Dwight Powell. He's in a smash spot, 35, 36, 37 minutes over the last 3 games there for Karl Anthony Towns, getting around 20% ownership. So not a lot of spin ups in the slate, but I think Cat looks like one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah, and he's getting 15% ownership on FanDuel as well at 9,800. And then you get Bridges, Hart, and Anunoby on FanDuel, all essentially 15% owned. Take your pick there. We rank Hart the best. On the DK side, they're all basically 10% owned. Do you have a preference between Bridges, Hart, and Anunoby?
Not really. I guess if I had to pick, it would probably be Bridges. He's the cheapest of the group, but they all look pretty similar, all getting around 10% ownership on DraftKings as well. So no real super strong takes on the wings.
Any interest in Tyler Kolek today?
I don't think so. I think that's probably getting a little bit too cute, but maybe in like a large field tournament, just throw like a dart on him and, hope that they run a similar first half rotation. But yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in the minutes there for Kolek.
Same. I just don't think if he were a better per minute guy, it might be a little bit more interesting, but like you have to pray that he gets minutes that you don't expect. And then he still also has to be good enough at that time. So I'm not super interested there. You're really just paying attention to the starters on FanDuel and on DraftKings. Anything else here for the Knicks?
No, I think ready to move on.
Alrighty, folks, halfway through, hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. It helps us out a ton. We want to run that number as high as we can. The goal is 500. If we could do that before live, before lock, it'd be great. I don't think we're anywhere near it. So if we want to get anywhere near 500, we got to start now. So hit that thumbs up if you can. It helps us out. And just so everybody knows, if you want to sign up for the Portfolio EV tool at OddsShopper, take a market-based approach to beating sportsbooks and pick'em sites, you can get a 7-day free trial. If you've never signed up before, this is always available. The link is in the description. You can come in, get expected value and expected win rates, shop around for the best lines across the sports books, use the parlay builder, use all of our historical data. We have logged every bet we've ever recommended. You could sift through that data, find the portfolio you're looking for best. You get notifications to your phone anytime a bet hits that criteria. Live odds screen. I'm probably missing like 10 more things that you can do. Mass betting. You can load up a full card for whichever sports book you're at. 7-day free trial using the link in the description. All righty. Let's go to the Atlanta Hawks. 8-point dogs in Houston. 235 total. Very tough spot here for Atlanta. This Houston defense is legit. Same rotation we normally have for Atlanta. Highest owned guy on DraftKings is 6% to Dyson Daniels. Highest optimal guy on DraftKings is 6% to Karis LeVert. There is not a lot to look at for Atlanta. Slightly better on FanDuel, 10% ownership to Dyson Daniels. Everybody else is sub 10%, though. Do you have any recommendations here for the Hawks?
No, tough spot. I don't love the way Atlanta's been running their rotations too. 10-man rotation last few games here, kind of spreading out the minutes as well. Yeah, I mean, looking at the ownership right now, it's Dyson Daniels in the most love at 7,300. I think there's better point per dollar plays in that range. I think if I had to play someone in Atlanta, probably would be a $5,100 Karis LeVert. Usually in the mid to high 20s minutes. Usage has been solid in that most recent game there for Karis LeVert. He had about 20% usage rate. He's like a secondary playmaker too, kind of behind Trae Young when LeVert subs in. So I think he's like viable in tournaments. He's got shooting guard, small forward eligibility as well. But yeah, other than that, like Okongu's price is up. Also, the minutes haven't really been. He hasn't really seen a big increase with Capella out. So I think it's pretty hard to go there. Ricochet is usually someone I look to when, one or two of these wings are out for Atlanta, but his minutes are really hard to nail down. 4,800. I think it's basically impossible to go there. I'm not going to mess with like Barlow or Moget or anyone like that. Trae Young himself is getting 3% ownership. I think there's better spend ups on the slate. So not a ton of interest, even though, again, he's not getting much love ownership wise.
The most I got of anybody was the guy that you liked the most, which was Karis LeVert. I got 5%. So that's about the extent of what we see here for Atlanta. And it's the same scenario on the FanDuel side. These guys just don't look that great. Daniels and LeVert right around 10% optimal. After that, everybody else is ranked like 60th or worse. It's bad. It's bad. So we go to Houston. The Rockets are a bit better. Now, they are locked into an 8-man rotation. They are they are dialing these guys in. Fred VanVleet is 20% owned at 6,200 on DraftKings. Dylan Brooks is 10% owned. Jalen Green's 10% owned. Alperen Şengün's 10% owned. Not much coming into Amin Thompson or Tari Eason, which is cool with me. Who do you like the most from Houston?
Yeah, so looking at ownership, it's probably Şengün, 9K. Like the spot here. As you mentioned, they're running an 8-man rotation pretty consistently. If you look over the last 3 games, 37, 34, 40 minutes for Şengün. So I think he's going a little underrepresented right now of like the spend ups in the slate. So yeah, I would say right now Şengün's one of my favorite contrarian spend ups at his current ownership.
24% ownership, Alperen Şengün, double in the field right now. We are on the exact same page. Do you like the ownership on VanVleet?
He feels maybe a little bit like, I don't really know if VanVleet should be getting 20% ownership. And then like some of these other guys basically like Tari Eason, 4%, Dylan Brooks sub 10%. I think like those guys all look pretty similar. So like, I'm okay with VanVleet, maybe going a little bit over owned, but I think some of these other Rockets are kind of sneaky, especially with the rotation they've been running. Even Steven Adams. Oh, no, I don't think I would get to Steven Adams because he's only center eligible, but like he's playing alongside Şengün a good amount. But yeah, I think some of those other wings like Eason and Brooks are in play for GPPs.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have much of Thompson and Eason, but I get the appeal in a large field GPP for sure. FanDuel side, 20% ownership to Jalen Green. It's basically inverse. Fred VanVleet's only 9% owned. Jalen Green's 20. Dylan Brooks is 25. Şengün's only 10 because he's 9,100 there. But three guys in the top 15, 11th, 13th, and 14th. But Fred VanVleet, a very different play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. He's $800 more expensive on FanDuel. That's going to change it up a little bit. But you're getting Jalen Green $400 cheaper. You're getting Dylan Brooks $300 cheaper. Amen Thompson is slightly more expensive, but the scoring's better. So, kind of comes out in the wash. Tari Eason's tough to get to on the FanDuel side. But on the DraftKings end, I'm with you. It's Alperen Şengün. I think he stands out at 9K. I'm expecting to get a bunch of him and Towns. It seems like a pay up at center day for me.
I like it.
So we'll go to Memphis. The Grizzlies are 10.5 point favorites in Utah, 240 total. This is the highest total of the day. And this is massive ownership. We are getting more ownership to Memphis than any other team. And it's not even close. Now, they're missing some bodies. So we'll walk through that. No Brandon Clark, no Ja Morant. Lamar Stevens is doubtful. If Cam Payne isn't your favorite play on DraftKings, Scottie Pippen might be it. Number 2 in the boom bust tool. 58% owned, 5K point guard, 50% optimal as well. Now, I am under the field on Scottie Pippen, but he still looks like one of the better plays and an immediate cash game lock. How do you feel about Scottie Pippen?
Yeah, Pippen moving the starting lineup last game. We know he's a pretty good point per minute player. With Ja Morant off the court this year, 1.14. Was on pace for close to 30 minutes of that game would have stayed competitive. So, yeah, agree here with Pippen. I think he looks like a great option. Him and Cam Payne right now, I think are two of your best point per dollar plays. I do think that Luke Kennard is kind of interesting as a pivot off of Scottie Pippen. So right now he's coming in around 5%. Pippen's around 60%. Kennard moved to the bench that last game, but still played 30 minutes. So he's someone that I think is kind of like a sneaky pivot there off Pippen. But yeah, Pippen right now, I think looks like a great point per dollar play.
Do you want the Vince Williams experience? 3,500 shooting guard, small forward eligible, 20% owned, ranks 11th in the boom bust tool.
Feels a little over-owned, but we don't have a lot of like amazing value outside of Pippen and Payne that we talked about. So like I'm okay with Vince Williams, but I don't really see like the minute ceiling for him, like 23, 18, 17, 18, 17 minutes for the last 5 games. But he does have the nice eligibility. Cheap price point and a great matchup against Utah. So I understand why he is getting some ownership.
Triple J is like 20 to 30% owned across both sites. He's 7,800 power forward center on DraftKings. He's looking pretty good to me. Ranks 4th in the boom bust tool. I'm assuming you're happy to get Triple J against this Utah team.
Yeah. Triple J, great spot. 1.38 fantasy point per minute player, jaw off the court. So I think the upside's very high with him. Desmond Bane as well, 1.21 in fantasy point per minute player, jaw off the court. So the two Memphis spend ups, Triple J and Bane, both look good. I think Triple J is a little bit easier to get to. He's about $1,000 cheaper. But yeah, I think both those guys, I have no issue getting to them.
Yeah, I have double-digit exposure to 6 of these guys. 40% of Pippen, 30 of Jackson, 25 of Vince Williams, 15 of Bane, 15 of Wells. I mean, I have 10 of Aldama. We haven't talked about him yet. 6,400 power forward eligible. He looks really good now. These guys are all awesome on FanDuel. They have 4 guys in the top 10. Aldama's 2nd. Bane is 4th. Pippen's 7th. Jackson's 8th. 3 of these guys are 40% owned. Jackson's 20% owned. Kennard's 10% owned. Vince Williams 10% owned. These guys are just getting jammed on both sites. And that's what happens when you face Utah. They look good on both sites. I'm going to have a bunch of these guys. Pippen's easy to get to. Jackson's easy to get to. There's not much that I don't want from Memphis.
Yeah, no, this is one of your best teams to get to on the slate right now. Also, keep an eye on the starting lineup. So last game, they went a little bit small and moved Aldama in the starting lineup. They shifted Zach Edey to the bench. I think they're going to do that again. If they do and Aldama starts, I like him even more. I think he's going a little bit under-owned right now. He is a 1.21 fantasy point per minute player with Ja off the court. He was on pace to play about 33 minutes last game. So If he starts again and he's only 10% owned, I'm pretty high on Aldama.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, while Memphis looks great, we still have to talk about Utah. They are a team playing basketball. Jordan Clarkson questionable, John Collins out, Lauri Markkanen out, Micah Potter out. Highest owned guy on the DraftKings side for Utah is 9% to Colin Sexton. No one got over 10% optimal, 8% to Walker Kessler in this scenario. These guys are filler. Like, I'll have a couple shares of Kessler, maybe Ju Zhang for value, a little Sexton, but there's no one here that I want a lot of. Walker Kessler might be the best option. I don't love the spot. I just don't want the Jazz. They're not good.
Yeah, this team's always really, really tough to project too every single day. Again, Clarkson, questionable, not super important. I kind of lean that he'll sit, but we'll see. They do have Oscar Tshiebwe up from the G League, so that does worry me a little bit there for the minutes for like Walker Kessler and Kyle Filipowski. Because we saw Walker Kessler, usually he's playing around 30 minutes. Against Washington, though, they really trolled his minutes. He only played 15. So I think that's definitely in the range of outcomes with Oscar Tshiebwe active. But in that most recent game, that was a blowout. You did see Kessler come back in and close. So wanted to mention that as well. But yeah, like I think if you wanted to take a shot on like Keontae or Sexton or, one of the bigs in tournaments, I think that's all right. But I don't have a ton of confidence in the minutes right now for those guys. Just some GBP dart throws, I think, with the two guards and the two bigs.
Walker Kessler looks a little bit better on the FanDuel side. He's 17% owned. He ranks 15th. We have him 15% optimal. The next highest optimal rank for anybody on FanDuel from Utah is Colin Sexton at 51st. He's 9% owned. There are no priorities here from Utah, just like scattered amounts of random dudes, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But it's not that great. Baseball season is starting on Thursday, and you guys can get the MLB DFS package at Stokastic for $1 through April 3rd. Whichever, it'll be $1 until April 3rd, at which point, whichever you signed up for, that's what will re-up. So whether you sign up on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, it's always going to be $1, and it's always going to be through April 3rd. But we have projections, ownership, top stacks, top pitchers, top batters. We have a single lineup simulator, a contest generator, our full simulation package, the post-contest sims, premium Discord, and more. Baseball's awesome. You could roster shitty teams. They can score a lot of runs. You're never dead. A team can score 15 runs in the bottom of the ninth, or the top of the ninth, and win a game for you. It's awesome. MLB DFS is super fun, and if you want to play it and use the best tools in the industry, sign up at Stokastic using the promo code CYCLE, $1 through April 3rd. Mitchell Robinson out, Castle in. I think I missed one other thing here. Duncan Robinson out as well. So live before lock crew will be able to hash out most of that by the time we get there. We have 2 games to go. Cleveland Cavaliers, hit that like button. 6.5 point favorites in Portland, 230 total. No Donovan Mitchell for this one for Cleveland. And that's creating some ownership. The number 3 play of the day on FanDuel is Darius Garland. The number 5 play of the day on DraftKings is Darius Garland. He's 8K on DK. He's about 20% owned. We have him 24% optimal. He is in 32% of my lineups. Do you want to be paying up for Darius Garland, or do you prefer Evan Mobley?
Ownership, pretty similar. I'll lean Evan Mobley, but I think both look pretty good here. As spend ups, again, 8,500 there for Mobley, 8K for Darius Garland. On the season with Donovan Mitchell off the court, Mobley 1.39 fantasy point per minute player, Garland 1.35. You have a 30.5% usage rate there for Garland, with Mitchell off the court, 26% there for Mobley. You're going to get more ball handling for both those guys in Mobley and in Garland. So I think they both look good. I guess if I had to pick, I would say Mobley, but I don't think you can go wrong with either the Cleveland spend ups right now.
I have a little bit more than the field for Mobley, and I have 32% of Garland. So slightly more of Garland, but over the field on both. But I'm burying the lead. The most owned Cleveland Cavalier on DraftKings, Ty Jerome, ranking 3rd, 30% owned, 32% optimal, 4,400, point guard only. What do you want to do with Ty Jerome?
Yeah, I think he stands out as a pretty good value option. I was pretty tilted. It was, I think, 2 games ago, Donovan Mitchell sat and he played only 17 minutes. I had an over on his prop. But I think you're probably expecting 20 plus minutes from Jerome here in this spot, maybe more if he's playing well. He definitely has, 25 plus minutes in his range of outcomes for sure. Again, pretty good point per minute player as well. So totally understand why he is the most popular play in Cleveland. He looks like a really good point per dollar value.
Rest of these guys, like Strus is getting a little bit of love. Jared Allen's got 5% ownership. Hunter's got 5. Okoro potentially starting. He's got about 5. Do you like anything else here for Cleveland?
Keep an eye on the starting lineup. I think it's more likely that Okoro starts, but it's definitely in the range of outcomes that DeAndre Hunter starts. We've seen him pick up a couple starts there, so there's a chance Hunter starts. If he does, I think he'd be an interesting contrarian play right now, only about 5% ownership. Jared Allen at 6,900. Kind of indifferent on him. The minutes haven't been amazing there. Obviously, I think the ceiling is much higher on Garland and Mobley, but if you landed on Allen as last guy in, I think it's okay. Strus, not much more to add there. He's coming around 10%, got nice eligibility. Again, a fine last guy in as well. I don't think I'm going to get to like Dean Wade or Sam Merrill in this spot, but the 2 spend ups plus Jerome definitely, I think, are your top plays here for Cleveland.
All righty. Now, the Portland side, they continue to be a little dinged up. Delano Banton's questionable. Jeremy Grant still doubtful. We're getting 25% ownership to Denny Avdia, who's just been a revelation for this past month. 20% optimal, 25% owned, ranks in the top 10. And then we got 10% ownership coming into Anthony Simons. He's 11% optimal. Not much coming else to Sharp or Kamara or Donovan Clingan. So how do you feel about Denny, and what else do you like for Portland?
Yeah, so I think Denny is your top play here for Portland. The price point is up, but it's deserved. I mean, he's playing huge minutes in competitive games. Potential assists are up. The rebound chances are up. Like right now, he's just behind Donovan Clingan over the last 5 games for rebound chances, about 17 rebound chances per game. Again, 39, 38 minutes over the last 3 games. So, I think Denny looks like a really good play, kind of in that upper mid-range. He's the guy I like the best here for Portland. I do think that Clingan's interesting for tournaments, 5,400. So he's usually someone I prefer getting to at lower ownership. We know Clingan's a pretty good point per minute player. The minutes have fluctuated a little bit, but against a big front court like Cleveland, like assuming he avoids foul trouble, I think this is a game you could see, high 20s, maybe even into the 30 minute range there for Clingan. So I think he's kind of a sneaky GPP play. As far as the rest of the team goes, Simons, Kamara, Sharp, they all look pretty similar to me. Right now, Simon's getting the most love of that group, about 10% to Simons, a little less than that for Kamara and Sharp. Scoot has really been struggling recently. He's 5,200. I think I'd rather get to those other guys that I just mentioned. And then, Duop Reith will play the backup 5 here to Clingan. But I think, getting to him is probably too cute on this slate.
All righty. Just to show you guys the FanDuel side of this one, no one ranks in the top 30. Best we got is Clingan at 42. He's 9% owned. No one has more than 6% optimal. They are just not that interesting of a team on the FanDuel side. So we close it out with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Guys, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Final ask for it. There's 1,900 of you. We should have 1,900 likes by now, but we don't. So instead, we'll talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that is a mystery today and not owned at all, at least as of right now. Q-tag Chet, Q-tag Cason Wallace, Q-tag Aaron Wiggins, Q-tag Jalen Williams. No ownership to any of these guys, but it certainly feels like a spot you could late swap into depending on what pops up.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the most interesting spot of the slate just because we have so many Q-tags here for Oklahoma City. I don't really have any leans on if these guys are going to play or not, but if you get a couple of these guys out, like for example, if Chet gets ruled out, I think Isaiah Hartenstein at 7K would be a really solid option. He started last game, played 33 minutes. We know Hartenstein's a good point per minute player, so if Chet's out, I think Hartenstein's a pretty good option right now. If J-Dub and Chet are out, I think SGA is going to be a pretty good spend up. With those two off the court, he's at a 40% usage rate and 35% assist percentage, 1.76 fantasy point per minute player with Chet and J-Dub off the court. So like SGA right now, currently or right now, Oklahoma City's not getting much love, but again, he could be a pretty interesting spend up if both those guys get rolled out. And then, yeah, like we could start looking at some of the value options too. If a few of these guys miss, maybe like a Lou Dort or Isaiah Joe, guys like that. So this team's pretty hard to talk about because we have 4 questionable players, but this is the spot where I think it makes this like really interesting for late swap.
Yeah, something could look good here for OKC, depending on how these Q tags break, but we just have no idea what that can be right now. And it's kind of impossible to talk about. If you want a late swap, there's 2 games locking at 10. You can set yourself up for this if you need to, but 43% of their minutes, 43% of their fantasy points are currently questionable. Makes it hard to give any recommendations. Both DraftKings and FanDuel, there's no ownership right now, so plan accordingly. And then for Sacramento, it's kind of the same problem, which is not helpful for us. If you don't know what to do with them, Q-tag Devin Carter, Q-tag Malik Monk, 0 ownership coming into Sacramento. Least owned team on the slate, 1% to Sabonis. Everybody else has zeros. But if Monk is out, these guys might look a little bit better. And I will say that they'll probably look a little bit better on FanDuel, where they all have way better.
Yeah. So right now, again, as you mentioned, this team is not getting much ownership at all. I do think either way, Sabonis is an interesting tournament option. So last couple of games that he has stayed healthy have been blowouts. The game against Phoenix was a blowout. The game against Boston was a blowout. He was actually on pace to play about 35 minutes last game. So 9,200. I do think Sabonis is an interesting tournament option. Whether Monk is in or not. I think he's going a little bit overlooked. And then, yeah, if Malik Monk gets ruled out, like you're going to get more usage of ball handling like DeRozan and Levine. And then you're going to get Keon Ellis move in the starting lineup and play good minutes. Keon Ellis played 37 minutes last game. So like he would be a pretty good play there in the mid-range. In the most recent game, it was DeMar DeRozan leading the team potential. Says he had 10, followed by Keon Ellis and Zach LaVine, who had 7 each. So those guys would have a bit more of a playmaking role there too. So Monk news is pretty important. But I do think that Sabonis is kind of a sneaky spend up either way.
Here's some news for you. Steph Curry out.
Oh, wow. Okay. So was not expecting that. Now Jimmy Butler, I think, is going to be he's definitely going to get some ownership for sure.
And it's going to be way too much. Fade Himmy. Fade Himmy. DK, we've done 8 games. Tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on Twitter, DK__DFS, doing prop content as well as DFS stuff too.
There we go, everybody. Deeper dive in the books. Live before lock is coming up next, and they got a lot to break down. News is breaking, and you want to be here for all of it. So hit the like button before they get here. Live before lock, right now.
What's up, my friends? It's DFS and Donuts. You can find me on OS Tales this MLB season. In 2024, it was my most profitable sport, 100% tracked by pick. If there's one tip I could give you for the first 30 days of the MLB season, it's target pitching props. Both the books and the sports bettors have trouble identifying the edge based on pitch counts, early season lineups. But take one step back and let's just take advantage based on the odds. Using the OddsShopper Live page right now, I already see a massive edge. Michael King, over 4.5 strikes. Minus 125 on Fliff Social Sportsbook is an elite play with a 9.2% positive expected value. Virtually every other book is around minus 160, minus 170, and then Fliff leaves it hanging there at minus 125. The first 30 days of the MLB season, you will find opportunities like this to take advantage of. Just catch the books sleeping. Sign up for Donuts Picks. I'll see you inside Discord. We'll take advantage together. Let's get paid.
Hey guys, my name is Rob and I run the Lay the House RM account over on OddsShopper Tales. I specialize in MLB, NBA, and NFL sports betting content where I find trends and situations that give me an edge over the sports books. These trends go way beyond the last 5 games that you'll see on the player cards and prize picks for every single player. When you sign up for my Tails package, you'll get access to my amazing Discord community, you'll be able to see all of my bets, and then you'll also see all of my research and analysis that goes into these bets as well, so you can make an informed decision yourself when you are tailing my plays. One MLB pick that I'm going to be on this year early on is Jason Dominguez to win the Rookie of the Year. The Yankees are going to need every ounce of offense they can get with the departure of Juan Soto and the injury to Garrett Cole, and Jason Dominguez is definitely going to be an exciting player to watch during this 2025 season. Let's all have a profitable and fun baseball season, everyone.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock, where the lineups I built to prepare for the show never end up mattering because we always get a massive piece of news without fail. We are, I don't know, we got like 2 weeks left in the NBA regular season, Eric. It has gone extremely fast. The amount of slates that we have had where there has been no news that is, and by no news, I mean news like right at like 5:58, 5:59 Eastern time, 6:01 just about to start. I don't know. If there's been 150 slates this year, that we've done 148 of them, something along those lines. So do us a favor, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are looking for baseball bets this year, we've got our 7-day portfolio free trial. You guys saw some people on Tails. They are going to be running some free subscriptions to open up the season as well. You guys might be familiar with Mitch. He's somebody who's very involved in DFS and Donuts over on Twitter. He is running a free promo. MLB free is the promo code. There's a link down below in the YouTube description box. Get yourself 7 days of his package for free. So lots of free ways to get yourself in the door to open up the baseball season. Then, of course, our $1 DFS deal with the promo code Cycle. So you can get Portfolio EV 7 days free. You could get some Tails guys like Mitch 7 days free. You could get MLB DFS, our Sims package for $1. Some good stuff going on. But Eric, what's up with you?
Yeah, I feel the same way you do. It's just insane how the clock strikes 3:00 my time and everything breaks at once. And it's like, why do we even do that before the show? But, better to be prepared. And at least I did get all the news right here early on. I had a betting thread that I threw out there. Ended up just being a lot of 8 games to parse through, but it found a lot of value. I ended up on some Najee Marshall. That is going to be very important here. No PJ Washington out there. No Anthony Davis. Thought he was undervalued. We're going to have a Spencer Dinwiddie conversation, which is just the worst kind of conversation on any kind of a slate. Although this is a Knicks spot. It's the second tail of a back-to-back, coming off of Brooklyn yesterday. We'll see what happens here with the update, but did get that news right. The Steph Curry one's kind of interesting as well, because now Jimmy Butler just completely unleashed. Brandon Pajemski, I don't know what those minutes can be, but I mean, there's just going to be so many interesting game environments like this. These are 2 super low totals. And yet when you take out Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, you take out Steph Curry, you got to find something here early on.
Yeah, so we'll end up seeing what happens probably in the next 2-3 minutes. We'll have a projections update, something along those lines. We see Jimmy Butler, $8,700 on DraftKings. We got Draymond Green at $6,700. You just brought up Pajemski, who is $6,300 on DK. We move over to the FanDuel pricing, and not looking too much at the ownership or the player projections right now, because that is all about to change in the next few minutes when we get an update. Just going over some of the initial pricing, but Jimmy Butler, $8,500 on FanDuel, Draymond Green, $6,900, Pajemski, $6,400. The thing that stands out immediately here, I think people are going to want to play Jimmy Butler in this spot no matter what, Eric, just because he's going up against his former team. Now, kind of annoying, because I actually thought he would have been somebody who was good to maybe try to get off of, because of the fact that I think he was going to have just inflated ownership because of the matchup against the Miami Heat. But now that he gets Steph Curry out of the picture, everything kind of has to flow through him, and he becomes underpriced by default.
Yep, that's the way that I feel about it. He's underpriced by default. I have a feeling like this is something Rinpack and I used to talk about back on the Slate Starter podcast back in the day. I don't cite that enough because, again, 4.5 years ago, I got to hang out every single day with one of the sharpest DFS guys that, has been my friend for almost a decade now. Rinpack would always bring up these kind of spots. He would talk about the incentive that a specific player might have. And I'm like, well, that's not going to help them shoot the ball better. You telling me he's not trying in these other spots? And that's always the way I would feel about it. But it was hilarious how good he was at identifying when to just go all in these kind of spots and when to be able to rein it back. I'd be curious to see what he had to say about this, because this feels like a spot where you could take Jimmy Butler like 1.2 fantasy point per minute. You can ramp it up to like 1.4 where he's just out there chucking, going. I mean, last time he played the Bulls, I saw something on ESPN yesterday. He scored 38 in his return to Chicago. He's a spiteful individual. I think we all know that. You know that from your beef with him. So between that and Terry Rozier, I mean, you've got a lot of action going down in South Beach tonight.
I've got a lot of enemies. It was when I was on Lulz last week, and Pete asked me, because we're going over the playback hack, and he was like, "Do you have any enemies? Like, anybody who comes to mind that might have hacked us?" Like, there's thousands of them. There's thousands of them. It could have been anybody. The other thing too with like some of these narratives about players playing their former teams, I think it helps sometimes. It hurts other times. Sometimes it doesn't matter. You might remember this. Do you remember Jimmy Butler's first game against the Minnesota Timberwolves where he was uber chalky in DFS and what happened in that game?
No, I don't. I just saw the Chicago one from yesterday.
He took 0 shots in the first half. So I'm not saying that means anything today. I'm just saying that I think that the fact that Steph Curry is out matters a lot more to the game than the fact that he's playing against the Heat. Because I also think him taking 0 shots against the Timberwolves, I think that he did that because it was a quote unquote revenge game. I think he looked at it was like, I think so low of you guys. I don't even need to do anything for my new team to beat you guys. That was how I felt like he approached that game. So, you just never know what's going to end up happening in some of these spots where guys are playing against their former team. Because for that game, like I remember Jimmy Butler, most popular player on the slate. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's Jimmy Butler. Everybody knows his personality. He's going to want to kill his former team. There was the whole beef with what happened in practice and everything. And then he just didn't shoot the basketball and just kind of coasted through the game. So you never know. You never know. But as far as today, Jimmy Butler probably going to be somebody who we're going to want to target simply because Steph Curry's out. And then you look at the rest of the guys on the Warriors roster, and it's kind of like who else is even going to take on a bigger workload? Who's going to take more shots? So outside of Jimmy Butler, outside of somebody like Draymond Green, who's going to have more facilitating ability or responsibility in this game, are there any cheaper guys that are standing out to you from Golden State?
We'll see. Probably not. I will say this. One of the things, and obviously Miami's the team directly responsible with the Andrew Wiggins trade and Kyle Anderson and everything else. Like Golden State traded off a lot of their depth at the deadline. Like they got off of a lot of their depth. Now they got Jonathan Kuminga back, but that's kind of the main thing is like Kuminga, because of his usage rate, he's like north of a 30% usage rate with Steph Curry off the floor this season. Like this is the push and pull effect where it's like, well, Kuminga's 5,500. Maybe he looks okay here, but it's a terrible game environment. He's got to get there from scoring, rebounding. He's not going to be setting things up for anybody else. And then he mutes the opportunity of getting to like, maybe Gary Payton II ends up out there starting 3,900. Do I really want to play 3,900 Gary Payton where he needs to run into 5 or 6 stocks in this spot? Knowing that there's like Keon Ellis showing up potentially in Sacramento later down the line in a much better game environment in a spread that, it's a little bit wide there, but Keon Ellis, no reason that he can't go out there and just continue. He looked better on the floor than Zach LaVine did yesterday. If you watched any of that game, it was absurd. So there's value that's coming up later that I think is going to be a little bit more interesting, better game environments coming up later. I don't know. I mean, we have both of those game environments, Dallas, New York, and Golden State, Miami, the ones that the news revolves around locking half an hour after lock. You'll have playback. You'll be covering everything. You'll be able to talk through it. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to tune into that show and kind of like feel out what happens with these starting lineups. But as for right now, the answer is probably no. I don't really see other value from Golden State I really want to be getting to.
Yeah, and we'll see when the projections get updated shortly. We did have a question I saw in the YouTube chat regarding our boom bust data. And for reference, what some of these numbers are here, so this is our data hub. This is a good page to look at. It's probably more valuable to look at than just the player projections, the ownership projections, boom bust, simply because it has all of it on one page here. So it just kind of simplifies all the data you're looking at on the site. But what you're getting out of the boom bust tool here, it is the player's ownership, their optimal rates, which is based on some of our data and simulations on the site, how often a player is projected to be in the optimal lineup for each day. And then the leverage is simply the difference between what their ownership is and their odds of being optimal. And yes, stuff like simulations, it does include the chance of blowouts. That is something that does end up happening. That's the reason why you'll see in our projections, we have players who normally wouldn't play. We'll have guys who are projected like 0.5 minutes or something like that. It's because just based on some of the data we have on the site, there are times where blowouts come into play, and that's included in the data that we have on the site. Anyway, if you guys do have any questions for us, hit me up in the Discord channel. Leave a super chat if you're not a sub and you want to get our attention in the YouTube chat. Other than that, let's start by answering some of the questions we have here and then breaking down the slate. First, Coach DFS wants to know who are the DK cash game plays today. He did add in for under 500 entries. I don't know about for yourself, Eric, but to me, cash game is always just trying to look at who are the players that have the best projections. We're generally trying to target some of the chalk there. And that's probably going to be the same guys, no matter whether it's a 500-person cash game, a head-to-head cash game, 1,000-person 50-50. I don't know how you feel about that, Eric, but size of the 50-50 or double up doesn't really impact how I view a cash game. How about for yourself?
No, not at all. Not at all. 50-50 double up. You're trying to play the optimal lineup. Like that's what you're aiming for. You're trying to play the best plays. That is all it comes down to.
So with that in mind, who are the guys who are going to say are must plays in cash games? So I'm going to sort by the ownership here, because like I said, it's generally a pretty good guide. Now, even though we don't have it updated, Jimmy Butler is somebody who I consider a must play in cash games at this point. I think he's a very, very strong cash option. Scottie Pippen Jr., he's somebody who's projected for a lot of ownership. I think he's a really strong cash game play. Campaign, considering what his role is going to be for the Knicks tonight, I consider him to be a must play in cash games. So those are the three right out of the gate. Jimmy Butler, Scottie Pippen, Campaign that I'm considering must plays in cash. Anything beyond that you're looking at for DraftKings on this 8-game slate?
You hit it pretty much on the head there. Jaren Jackson Jr. probably into the realm, mainly because you just want to kind of have some late exposure to stuff then too, kind of react to how your box scores are doing. In head-to-heads, I'm always trying to react to how my early players are doing and figure out exactly where my opponents are for their lineups as well. I will say I'm a little bit confused why people aren't playing more Garland. We could very well make him nuke of the night right now. Probably won't do it. Apologize to anybody if you didn't hear the end of the show yesterday. Just turned everything into Matkovic because, well, it didn't make any sense to play Kankar at that point. And so there you go. We'll have better nukes going forward, I promise you. But Matkovic was like 37 fantasy points at 4,400. That was good times. Speaking of 4,400, Ty Jerome probably into that mix. I don't think I heard you say his name either, but Scottie Pippen Jr., Jimmy Butler, Cameron Payne, like we're kind of rotating around those guys here. And then I like the idea of just going late with some of the other pieces that you're going to put in.
Yeah, I think Garland's a really strong option on the slate, but and by the way, cash games, I think he's totally fine to be playing in cash games. The only reason I don't call him a cash game lock is because he is $8,000. So he's kind of priced up for the situation. If you played him in cash games, cool. But if you didn't play him in cash games, I'm not going to say you have to redo your lineup and make sure that he's being fit into the lineup. And of course, the situation with Cleveland and why Ty Jerome gets referenced here as a strong cash game option. No Donovan Mitchell tonight. And then related to that as well, Bando in Discord is asking us, do we like Butler more than Evan Mobley now? So we are still waiting on some projection updates, but we currently have Evan Mobley in for 42 fantasy points. I strongly feel that Jimmy Butler is going to be projected for more fantasy points than Evan Mobley. There's still some other considerations, like what is the ownership of these guys? But Jimmy Butler, I have a pretty strong inclination that despite not having run in Sims yet and not having updated projections, that I'm going to like Jimmy Butler more than Evan Mobley.
Correct. By a pretty noticeable gap, I will say.
Yeah, so for me, Jimmy Butler, he's going to be a core option. And we did just get projection updates, which you guys could see right here. Just to the player projections right now, not quite the ownership yet. But here's what we've got, starting with the FanDuel side of things. Jimmy Butler, 42.5 fantasy points, 32 for Draymond Green, just under 30 for Brandon Pajemski, Jonathan Kuminga in for 27.5. And then just looking through the rest of these guys, per the point you brought up before, Eric, there's nobody cheap who's projecting all that well, at least not on the FanDuel side of things. Let's see. Is there anybody who's really cheap that maybe I overlooked before from the Golden State Warriors on DraftKings?
No. I mean, my assumption is that we're going to get an active Kessler Edwards, and I think that that's going to become the guy. He didn't play yesterday. Remember, he got ruled inactive while we were on the show. My guess is that he ends up being the one value play that ends up popping up to the top here. I'm just kind of uploading everything in my sheet, and we'll figure it out. But like, as long as he's active to play today, I assume that he's going to start. Like, he could start at the 4 there. You slide Najee Marshall down, or you could just say whomever's playing whichever position, doesn't really matter. But now is when you need to like utilize Kessler Edwards. And I think they just give him unlimited run, considering he didn't have to play on the back-to-back. And yeah, I think he's going to be the one guy. 3,800 on DK. Yeah, that's going to end up being popular, I think.
Yeah, and Richie in the chat just brought up Rich, key part of our data team, the guy who him and Jason Wagner powering all of our NBA projections. He says he has one game left for Dallas, so if he plays tonight, he'll be live for 30 to 40 minutes. Yeah, they really have nothing to lose. I mean, we've seen this kind of like what NFL teams do with running backs when they're on 1-year deals. It's like, yeah, we'll run this guy into the ground. Who cares what happens on his next contract? Not going to be our issue. Going to be somebody else's issue. I think there's a pretty good chance that we see a massive workload out Kessler Edwards. Should he be active today? But for all we know, he might not even end up being active. But down to a back-to-back, so there's going to be no Anthony Davis today, who barely played last night, wasn't even all that effective when he was on the court. Not that he needed to be because of the matchup against the Brooklyn Nets. But we have another question in Discord. This one is coming to us from Sally Sal. He wants to know, is Jimmy Butler in play on FanDuel? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, Butler's a jam on FanDuel, right?
Yeah. Really. He to me, he's a strong option on FanDuel. He's a strong option on DraftKings, probably even more so on FanDuel than DK, where we've got Jimmy Butler's $8,500 on FanDuel compared to $8,700 on DraftKings. And in general, pricing tends to be a little bit higher on guys on FanDuel than they are on DK. So when you see somebody who's already going to be a pretty good option on both sites and they're cheaper on FanDuel than DraftKings, that's a pretty good tip-off that that's somebody who you are going to want to be rostering. And we just got an ownership update as well. So I want to look at some of the updated ownerships, although we also have a super chat from Jorge to answer first. Jorge Giacomi says, playing my Millie ticket today, who is the must-have and best leverage play? He needs to beat Bellman. I've got a better goal for you. How about winning $1 million? Because if Bellman comes in last place, you're not going to come in second to last place and be like, hell yeah, beat Bellman. Win $1 million tonight. Win $1 million tonight, Jorge.
That's what I was going to say. Jorge, let's change our goals a little bit here. I know it's fun to be able to say that. It's like a golf tournament when one of my buddies and I are both playing and, I go out and shoot 76 and he's just like, oh, congratulations, you beat me, but you still suck at golf today. So that's literally what happened a couple Saturdays ago. So it was not an enjoyable experience. But Jorge, let's just win $1 million and then you can figure it out from there. Also, I don't think you'd be so mad at second place. What is it, 200K? 250K today for that. So
something like that. Almost the entire prize pool goes to the first few places. It's like a $2 million prize with $1 million to first.
I ended up I got a ticket, but it was chopped in 3 ways on a showdown. So that was sad because then I just got the cash for it, but I didn't.
That's a good deal.
Use the ticket. It was fine. It was over $1,000. Yeah, it was nice.
By the way, so listen to the drop off because Brainlet in chat said 250 did seem pretty high to me. He said it's 125,000 to second place, which if you won $125,000, you're not going to be upset. But $1 million to first and 125,000 to second, that's a pretty wild drop off.
Wait, people don't know that I played Division I golf. How many times have we had this conversation? Everybody's like, "Oh, what's your?" We've never talked about that in 5 years of doing this. The fact that I'm like a very good golfer. Okay, never mind. It's fine. No big deal.
Let's go ahead and look at the rest of the players here from Golden State, and I'll read off all of the projections for the DraftKings side of things, and then we'll also look at the ownership after we get to that question from Jorge, because we didn't really answer him. All we did was kind of talk about that he should want to beat other people other than Matt Bellman in the contest. But I also have on screen here the updated ownership as well as player projections from the Golden State Warriors, and kind of surprising. We actually only have 16.5% projected ownership to Jimmy Butler. I have a feeling he's going to be more popular than what that number is. But anyway, to Jorge's question, who is one must-have player and the best leverage play on the slate, Eric?
Are we doing Nuke of the Night then too?
Well, this is specific to the Millie. I don't know because I don't know if who you want to give out as a contrarian play for a large field tournament is comparable to who you'd want to give out as a contrarian play.
Yeah, he's not contrarian enough. I'm with you. Darius Garland
he also
would be
wants
my
a leverage play, by the way, not necessarily
leverage.
Contrarian.
Leverage play is Darius Garland. I'm obsessed with Darius Garland today. I think he's way under-owned. Our tools think he's way under-owned. The Sims tool thinks he's way under-owned. I'm very, very much in Darius Garland's camp today. If he doesn't play well, I'm going to have a bad day. Scottie Pippen Jr., you have to play him in your one lineup. You just do.
Related also to what Rich had said in chat, and also I know he's going to be really popular. Like play campaign tonight, he's a really good option. If he is active and we get confirmation on that, Kessler Edwards, particularly if he starts, he's going to be a really, really strong option for today. Nothing for the Mavericks. The Mavericks also, they probably don't want to risk injuries to other players. They can't afford it. They don't give a shit what happens to Kessler Edwards tonight or after today. So might as well play him as much as you could possibly handle. So I like Kessler Edwards a whole lot for tonight as well. As far as other guys, like Scottie Pippen Jr., you had mentioned him. I agree with that, Eric. Got to play him as well, assuming that he's going to be out there starting today. Any other final thoughts on the Millie field?
No, I mean, anytime you get a ticket and you have an opportunity there, there's this always cost benefit analysis. And it's hard for me to give like the exact take on it because I've been in this position multiple times where it's like, I've played for cashes in those kind of spots because, $6,000, $8,000, it's a lot of money, especially as you're building out your bankroll at the beginning. But at the end of the day in DFS, these are so top heavy. I mean, the drop from 1 million to 125K, I just saw it. It's just insane. That's a big, big drop. You want to be gearing for the top as best you can. You don't have to be insane to go out and win this thing on a milli with this kind of a field. So you can still make calculated risks, but I definitely want you to keep in mind that whatever your goal is, obviously if you want to catch the ticket, there's conservative ways you can go about it. But I don't think you even have to go way off the board with 1 or 2 lineup spots just because you're trying to get gunned down first in this tournament. There's worlds where nobody sub 10% on this slate ends up in that winning lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but by the way, I agree with you. I think Darius Garland, assuming nothing changes here, and we did just get an ownership update, so I wanted to look to see. Yeah, his ownership came up a little bit, but 18% ownership, that's pretty low for somebody with the upside that Garland has in this spot. Once again, to what I said before, good but not a must-play guy in cash games, but I think he looks quite under-owned for tournament purposes. I like Darius Garland quite a bit for tonight as well. The next super chat that we have here, it is coming to us from 1-2. He says, Eric, I don't even know what this means. He says, you are the Jordan Klein of golf. So I guess that means you are the best golfer named Eric Lindquist?
Yes, there we are. I definitely am that. Here's the thing. The funny thing, too, is that the very first half marathon I ever ran, I ended up getting a drink at the bar afterwards, and I sat next to another Eric Lindquist who I beat by 2 minutes. It was a great feeling. His name was Eric Lindquist. It was the identical name. Guy sat down next to me at the bar. He's just like, shit. And from that moment on, I was just like, all right, there are other Eric Lindquist. They walk around. So, I'm probably better at golf than he was, but barely better at running at the time, although I'm a lot fatter now.
There we go. There was a point in time where you thought that you could, was it run faster than me or something? There's some sort of endurance test you wanted to do.
I definitely can.
Well,
I'm running another half marathon at the end of May, so I'm back into it. I'm back to fighting weight, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right, no more super chats. Let's see if there's any other questions from Discord. If not, we do have one here from King Yusuf. He wants to know, what are our thoughts on Fred VanVleet as a DraftKings tournament option for today? So Fred VanVleet, he is back with the Houston Rockets. We're starting to see extended minutes from him again. For a long time, he was playing shit. He got hurt, came back, playing limited minutes, wasn't really all that involved in the offense. But then we've seen some better games from him as of late. Eric, Fred VanVleet, good matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, only $6,200. Somebody you plan on getting yourself exposure to over on DK?
For sure.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Fred VanVleet, definitely somebody who I am interested in. Looking forward, once we get into maybe playoffs, the pricing kind of changes. But in general, going forward, Fred VanVleet is going to be more expensive than $6,200. And he's got a great matchup tonight as well. So I am in agreement. I think he is somebody to be playing today. Pat Klay Thompson, who is asking his normal question here. He wants to know, is Klay Thompson somebody that we're going to be rostering today? That for me is probably going to be a no. We got him for sub 30 fantasy points at $6,400 against the Knicks. So Pat Klay Thompson, I know that you are a little bit biased. You're always looking to play some guys from the Dallas backcourt, Klay Thompson in particular. Not a Klay day for me though.
Yeah, not a Klay day for me, especially think about this. Where are the Dallas Mavericks short in not the backcourt anymore? They got Hardy back. He can play the 2. They have Max Christie. He can play the 2-3. They have Dinwiddie. He can slide over if need be, playing next to Brandon Williams. They have enough bodies there now where, you are either getting Klay Thompson going out and scoring 35 all from 3, or you're probably dead with that lineup spot. So it's just a tough ask on any kind of a slate like this at 6,400. He's inflated for the situation already. It's a bad game environment. Probably going to be a 0%er for me.
I want to go over some of the injuries that we have for tonight as well. We did get the Spurs confirmed starting lineup: Chris Paul, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell. We got Harrison Barnes, Bismack Biyombo back starting at center, which it's been a rotating cast of who's playing center for the San Antonio Spurs as of late. But injuries for tonight, and it's important because we've got a full slate of games today. The 10 o'clock games being included. We've got Cade Cunningham. He is questionable to play. Jalen Williams questionable to play, potentially making his comeback for OKC. I assume he's going to be somewhat limited, even if he does play, just because of the time off. He hasn't played in a few weeks. Chet Holmgren is questionable. Malik Monk is questionable. I tend to think he's going to be back now that he's missed a few games with the illness. Jordan Clarkson is questionable. Aaron Wiggins is questionable. Cason Wallace is questionable. Tim Hardaway Jr. is questionable. Of all the players who are questionable on the injury report, in Detroit, we should be getting really soon. That game locks in 33 minutes. I'm pretty surprised we have no updates yet on Cade Cunningham. Oh, it looks
Just
like Cade's out.
I mean, unbelievable. Did you do that? How does this happen every time with you? Dude.
They have to be. If we need proof that everything's a simulation or that we are the main characters, this has to be it, right? It happens every day.
Protagonists. You're the antagonist, but that's okay. You accept it. You're like a, I don't know. It's like a Walter White type. I get it.
This is, I mean, what are we doing here, NBA? Also, for people in chat,
yeah,
because this big thing is golf a sport, golf not a sport. I consider it a hobby, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't take an immense amount of skill. I would consider Eric to be a very skilled hobbyist. Not a sport, but it's all right. It doesn't make a difference.
So what is bowling to you?
Hobby.
What is pool?
That is a hobby.
What is darts?
That is a hobby.
What is, I mean, like table tennis?
That is a hobby.
Table tennis is a hobby? Have you seen these dudes in the Olympics running back and forth? It's not a hobby.
It doesn't mean that the athlete, it doesn't mean that the people playing it aren't athletic and they're not in shape and that they don't train for it. They're just very good at their hobbies. They're the best at their hobbies. You could be an Olympic level hobbyist.
All right.
Well, sport.
You're a goon. Okay. But anyway, we have something very important to talk about then, because I don't think it can be understated how push and pull this is about to be if we get Cade Cunningham and Tim Hardaway Jr. sitting. Did you see the rotation on Sunday for Detroit? Did you see what they did? And we had crazy Asar Thompson foul trouble when it happened too. I was kind of going on a deep dive for it last night because I was like, is there going to be Sasser props? Are there going to be Ron Holland? Like, what's going on? Dennis Schroeder played about as bad as he possibly could. He salvaged the entire game at the free throw line at the end of the game. Like, it was horrendous. Like, the stone cold worst run out you could have gotten. Like, Dennis Schroeder is going to probably still be a full jam no matter what here. It's San Antonio on the other side of this. He's 4,700. He's going to just be unavoidable. He got up to 35 minutes and could not have played worse. He had to get there at the foul line at the end of it. But I do think the two guys that I want to talk about with you are Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland, because Holland's at least up to a spot where he's, 4,100, but he covers small forward. And I don't know what to make of it, but Asar Thompson had horrific foul trouble in that game, played 9 games, and Cade Cunningham officially out. So now we are all just oh, good. Tim Hardaway's in. So we don't have to worry about either of those two guys. Thank God. Thank God.
So we've got the official update there, which you had a feeling had to be coming soon, which was why, like, there is not a, like, there's some coincidence to the exact timing, but it's not a coincidence that I bring up that, like, hey, we're getting very late that we don't have this news and it comes shortly after. Because if we think about it from a logical standpoint, how much later could the Cade news have come out? Like, it's not going to come out at 6:55. So it's not like crazy coincidence that came out at the exact same moment, but it is kind of funny that it happens at that time. But anyway, Cade Cunningham is out tonight, guys. Tim Hardaway Jr. is in. They were both questionable as of about 3 minutes ago. Now, we don't have an update in projections quite yet because it just broke, but we do have pricing on the guys, and we can make some educated guesses on who it is that we want to be getting to. Now, Eric, I know that you had brought up Marcus Sasser there. The guy who's going to make the most sense, Dennis Schroeder. I think Schroeder just becomes the chalk of all chalk plays tonight.
You should be. He's going to be the highest owned player in my. I'm going to probably have 100%, more than likely.
Yeah, that's somebody who's going to be very difficult to get away from. One other thing I do want to ask you, though, because I was going through the injury news as I was bringing up, Cade, and then he gets ruled out while we're talking about it. Any sort of considerations or leans that you have for some of the later locking players? Yesterday, we're on the right side of Aaron Gordon being out, so I already had a lot of the Denver guys already, loaded up in lineups for me yesterday. Starting lineup was a little bit different than anticipated, Westbrook coming off the bench. But, either way, I had a lot of exposure to Denver, ended up making for a decent slate there. Between Jalen Williams, Chet, is there anybody else who's questionable that you think is fairly likely to be out that you want to position your lineups in a certain way for?
I'm not confident in it, so I won't say that. That'd probably be the wrong way of describing it. But I do think one thing that has me less like, I need to absolutely jam OKC is Alex Caruso. He played 31 minutes against the Clippers, and just seeing that that's like something that's possible for him. We hadn't really seen him extended beyond 26. I think this was always going to be part of OKC's game plan. I know Josh has talked about it. I've talked about it with Josh, I think, a long, long time ago. But I think they were always going to start ramping up Alex Caruso around this time of year because he's such an important piece to them come tournament time. Like, come the playoffs, Alex Caruso is such a difference maker on ball defending against anybody in the NBA. He can guard 4 positions. He's the best on ball defender, I believe, in the entire NBA. Just never really a need to go push his minutes and go crazy with him. We saw that happen in the play-in tournament, or in the finals, I suppose it was. We saw the minutes finally ramp up again for him there. But knowing that that's possible, it makes me less interested in like trying to find a pathway to Kenrich Williams, find a pathway to, Jalen Williams, who is probably going to be playing a little bit more. He could maybe even play alongside an Isaiah Hartenstein here at some point in time. But if you get like 2 of those guys in, you're not going to want to have those lineup spots. Lou Dort is back. He can play quite a few minutes. He played 29, I think it was, in his first game back here against the Clippers. You have Isaiah Joe. Like, the backcourt isn't so interesting to me. The main thing I'm paying attention to is if you get Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren out, and Aaron Wiggins out as well, Kenrich Williams at 3,400 becomes like the guy that's unlocked. But I don't know if I want to like make any kind of like substantial sacrifices early on with like Campaign or obviously Dennis Schroeder now or anybody else here early for value, because I think it's just too good.
Yeah. And let's see if we have that update here. And not quite yet. It'll be soon. And then we'll read off the updated projections for all you guys. And of course, after the show ends in 26 minutes, don't forget to join Josh Engleman and I over in Playback. We react to all the ongoing news and we update everything that goes on. Yesterday, I'll tell you what, yesterday, Eric, there was a lot of news I was on the right side of and Josh wasn't. He was, and some of it didn't even matter. We're like, I was like, Reese isn't playing today. He's inactive. Josh insisted I was wrong. Then we found out that he was inactive. Aaron Gordon, I said I was building my lineups in the event that Aaron Gordon was going to be out. And Josh said, cool, because he wanted to build bad lineups. Aaron Gordon got rolled out 2 minutes later. So we'll see what ends up happening on the post-lock show today. But you guys are going to want to tune in to Josh and I to get some information. And also, do not forget to take advantage. We are just 2 days away from the start of baseball season, and you guys could get access to any MLB package on the site for just $1 with the promo code CYCLE, all capital letters. There's a link down below in the YouTube description box. And if you guys do sign up, doesn't matter if you sign up today, doesn't matter if you sign up tomorrow, doesn't matter if you wait until Thursday. If you guys sign up at any point in time using this promo code, you're going to get access through April 3rd for any package of your choosing for just $1 with that package renewing on April 4th. So take advantage of this $1 deal, and you're going to want to get access as early as possible. And as soon as we have projections up on the site for the start of baseball season, I am going to be putting out tutorial videos on how to use different tools on the site and some of the UI updates included, because, every once in a while things look a little bit different, a little bit nicer, a little cleaner around the site. So be on the lookout for that when baseball season is around in just 2 days. Projection should be up probably sometime tomorrow. Let's go back into Discord where we have no other outstanding questions. Were there any super chats that were here for us? And yes, here we go. We have from Joski. Joski24 wants to know best FanDuel GPP spend up and value at each position. So let's go ahead and look at the FanDuel side of things here, Eric. And keep in mind, he wants a favorite spend up and a favorite value at each position over on FanDuel. Now, still waiting on some projection. Oh, no, projections actually just got updated. So I was going to say Dennis Schroeder is your value play at point guard, no matter whatever it is that he ends up coming out. I assume he's going to be.
Yes, he's 100% play for me. Okay, I already ran it. He's never
Dennis Schroeder, Campaign. Those are your two, whichever position you want to put him out. Campaign, Dennis Schroeder, one of them at point guard, one of them at shooting guard. Who's your favorite spend up point guard? Because we're going to feel the same way about value at point guard and shooting guard.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I can't believe you didn't say the guy here. I'm going Darius Garland.
I saved him for you. I love both of these guys today for
Okay.
tournaments, for what it's worth. Like, imagine you get Chet.
Shooting guard.
Yeah, imagine you get Chet, Jalen Williams, and Aaron Wiggins out. Who shoots the ball 40 times? SGA.
Yeah.
Hi. And I feel fine if I end up with him in my lineups no matter what. So that's kind of my thinking as far as that goes. For shooting guard, Desmond Bane on FanDuel for sure is probably the guy. 8,400 assist rate spikes. Everything looks really, really nifty. 30% usage. Or I guess it's like 26%. It's Jaren Jackson Jr. whose usage goes nuts. I think contrarian, I like the idea of some Tyler Hero in my life on FanDuel. His price tag is 8,300. Pretty doable.
Yeah. So, I mean, the top overall spend up at shooting guard, which, by the way, there aren't really spend ups at shooting guard. Who's the most expensive? Yeah, the most expensive player is Amin Thompson, $8,600. So there isn't really anybody who's super pricey at the shooting guard position. Your chalk option is Desmond Bane. If you're running a bunch of lineups, he's the guy you're going to get to the most. Relative to ownership, I tend to agree with you, though, Eric, because while Desmond Bane, yeah, like it makes sense that he's projected for more fantasy points here than Tyler Hero. You know, it's 46% owned, 39% optimal. Then you got Tyler Hero way under owned, 9% ownership, 14% optimal. So as far as trying to find somebody who relative to ownership here, like, yeah, I don't think Desmond Bane outscores Tyler Hero at a 9-1 clip. So I agree with you. I think Tyler Hero looks pretty good as a spend up option. Small forward. Who's your favorite pay up option and value option at small forward on FanDuel?
Desmond Bane again, but I'll go to Paulo Banchero / Franz Wagner. They're just hand in hand again this slate where you just can play one or the other. I felt that way about him on DK yesterday. Franz Wagner went just ape shit at the end of that. So that was fun to watch. JJ Redick lamented the day. Klay Thompson's way cheaper on FanDuel, 5,500. I'll throw him into the conversation.
Malik Beasley for me at small forward.
Fair.
Power forward, favorite spend up, favorite value.
Kessler Edwards, favorite value, not close. Favorite spend up. Probably Jaren Jackson Jr. on FanDuel, sub 20% ownership. Yeah, probably Jaren Jackson Jr.
Jimmy Butler for me as a spend up. I'll also go with Kessler Edwards as a pay down option. Now, finally, at center, your favorite pay up option as well as your favorite value.
Yeah, Cat for sure, pay up. And then I'm going to go way off the board here, spending down Kai Jones.
There really aren't that many cheap centers I like on FanDuel, to be honest.
Brutal.
I don't know there's somebody. I'm gonna say don't punt at center on FanDuel.
That's probably the right answer. But if I built out 150, I would have a couple lineups of Kai Jones, because why not just play Kai Jones infinity minutes if you're getting your face blasted by New York?
Starting lineup for the Detroit Pistons, we do have Dennis Schroeder confirmed as our starting point guard. Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., Amen Thompson, Tobias Harris, as well as Jalen Duren. And projections, which are now updated on the site, as well as ownership. So here's what we have for the Detroit Pistons. We have 38.5 fantasy points for Jalen Duren. We have 36 fantasy points for Dennis Schroeder at $4,700. Yeah, he's going to be in just about everything, Eric. I mean, look, we've got him projected for 60% ownership and a 93% chance to be in the optimal lineup today. Dennis Schroeder, go ahead and play him. Top overall play on the slate. Tobias Harris, we've got him in for 32.3 fantasy points now. Malik Beasley for 26.2. Asar Thompson for just under 26 fantasy points. Tim Hardaway Jr. just under 20 fantasy points. Isaiah Stewart for 19.5. Marcus Sasser, he's somebody who you would point out as a potential contrarian option for. He's in for 17.5 fantasy points and 2% ownership. What stands out to you about our projection updates here on Detroit?
Yeah, so the thing about the Detroit game, again, I watched, unfortunately, way too much of that game on Sunday, even with college basketball going on. But they just kept Asar Thompson off the floor because of how well Sasser and Holland were playing. I think that's a very, very rare occasion. Also, it didn't help that Thompson picked up like 4 fouls in 9 minutes. So he was in foul trouble from the jump of that game. It never got better. I think he's got this is a great buy low. San Antonio on the other side, 4,500, good fantasy producer. Completely understand why he's showing up as much as what he is. I think Duren makes sense. Tobias Harris is very intriguing because I don't know what it is, but like nobody ever wants to play Tobias Harris. And it's a long time ago that he was on the Philadelphia 76ers. We're almost done with the entire regular season. And I still feel like there's been a lot of these slates, like not necessarily where Cade Cunningham's been out, just even any slate where I'm like, oh, Tobias Harris is like a nice mid-range 5,700 contrarian option or 5,900 today. Like nobody wants to play him. I bet that just continues to be the case. Now, it does take a lineup spot away from you for something you could swap into later. But as I said before, like outside of Kenrich Williams, off the board Kenrich Williams, I can't imagine anything else value-wise shows up in spades in the late night window that isn't already apparent, like Ty Jerome, like Scottie Pippen. So like, I think I'll still have some swapability to get to Kenrich Williams if that news shows up. So I'm not going to freak out too much about it. I'm probably going to play it pretty straight up. And I think Tobias Harris is a really good under-owned option.
All right. Tobias Harris, who we do have projected for 15% ownership. So nothing crazy there. The only players really, really chalky here, it's Dennis Schroeder at 60%, 17% to Duran, 15% to Tobias Harris, 16% to Asar Thompson. By the way, this goes without saying, but earlier when we were asked about must plays for cash games, Dennis Schroeder is solidly a must play in cash games now.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Other players and their updated ownership now. We've got Dennis Schroeder now, the most popular player on the slate. Scottie Pippen is 50% owned. We got 39% ownership to Campaign, just under 30%, to Cat, 28%, to Jaren Jackson Jr., and we got 27% to Andrew Wiggins. Nobody else above 25%. When I build my lineups out, I'm about to run everything with the updates in the contest generator. I'm actually going to boost the projected ownership of Jimmy Butler because I really do think he's going to be more popular than we're projecting him for.
I definitely do too.
Anything else that you are seeing amongst the most popular options on the slate where either somebody who you think is going to be more popular, a la Jimmy Butler, or somebody who's pulling a lot of ownership that you think should be lower owned? Not necessarily that they will be lower owned, but that you think they are over owned tonight.
I think Scottie Pippen's interesting because, like, I mean, do we assume he starts? We assume he starts. Like, he's got to start.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, he doesn't have to, but I think he does.
Okay, and that's kind of the way that I look at it too. I mean, Santi Aldama. My thing is that Walker Kessler's on the other side of this one, and I'd be a little bit surprised to see it, but like Zach Edey starting, going back to Zach Edey here, it's been a really tough stretch for Memphis and Zach Edey specifically. They took on Sacramento on the road, which, you know, he played well, played 24 minutes. But then at Portland, that's been way more difficult than anybody would have anticipated over the course of the last month. And the Clippers. So Zubats, he had the Zubats task. That's never going to look good in the old box score. He had horrible foul trouble in the Portland game. Like, I think there's a world where Zach Edey trims in a little bit more than we anticipate against a Walker Kessler. And behind him, you know, obviously you're getting lots of minutes for, who's the Duke guy that I'm just blanking on his name for the last however long. Kyle Filipowski. Couldn't think of the name off the top of my head. Like, I think that there's a world where Zach Edey just goes out and maybe gets a start. So just keep that in the back of your mind, but I'm not going to account for it at all whatsoever. I think Scottie Pippen's probably appropriate at the current rate, but I'd at least want to have a plan in place where if that disappeared, I'd want to know what I'm swapping to or from or how OKC works out. Campaign looks a little under-owned now because of Dennis Schroeder, but like Dennis Schroeder just breaks the slate. So totally get it.
Yeah. So for me, when we're by the way, very important. This is actually, we got a bunch of super chats actually. So I don't want to belabor the point too much. Actually, just start banging these out. We got a bunch of these that
Love
came
banging.
in. 1, 2. This one a little bit less urgent. Does the sport John Daly can play count as a sport? Good point. Good point. He plays barefoot and drunk and quite well.
Better than you.
Better than all of us. Better than all of us.
I could probably take John Daly at this point.
All
Depends on how many he had the night before. I could probably, like, playing the same tee box. I'd feel pretty good going up against John Daly, to be honest.
I feel like he's better drunk, though. He's like an anime character. It's like a special ability. He drinks, and then all of a sudden, he's just like acing. He's acing every par 3.
I saw him top a tee shot at Newport Country Club last year, and I can't get it out of my head. Like, he's cold, stone cold topped his opening tee shot.
I hadn't drunk yet.
It was incredible. Anyway.
He probably had no drinks in him, and then he didn't have his superpowers. Choke Hold'em wants to know, would you allow 4 Mavs? Like, I'm not doing anything to prevent myself from getting 4 Mavs, but I can't imagine there are lineups I want to play 4 of them.
Yeah, can't imagine either.
That's why I just don't like 4 Mavs players today.
Eric,
Michael
you're not ever
Wallace
beating a major winner.
says
I've
Ron
already
Holland
beaten
or
a
Alex
major winner.
Caruso for a last man in at $4,100, and it says thanks, you guys rock. Probably neither of them. Holland, if I had to choose, but for Caruso, it really depends on how many guys are out for OKC. As things stand right now, I don't want to be playing Alex Caruso. So we've got Alex Caruso projected for 18 fantasy points at the moment and only playing 19 minutes. If a bunch of guys get ruled out for OKC, totally different situation, but I don't see myself playing Alex Caruso. And then as far as Ron Holland goes, we've got him in for 18 minutes and 16 and a half fantasy points. The real answer here is neither of them. I'll say Caruso just because he locks later. You give yourself more flexibility to swap to somebody better. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I assume you're not playing Ron Holland or Alex Caruso?
Sure, I'm not.
Sunflower, do we project Santi Aldama to start? And then also wants to know the minutes projections. So here we have Santi Aldama in for 29 minutes. And then as far as our projected starting lineup for the Grizzlies, I'll go to the starting lineups page, which also, if you ever want to look at our starting lineups page, it's totally free. Just go to Stokastic, go to the projected starting lineup page. You'll see some news, notes, our projected starting lineups, the confirmed starting lineups. Much better resource and source of information than that dreaded green check mark.
Don't do it. Don't even say it.
Don't do it.
Say
that
my
used to be the
name.
bane of Eric's existence, that green check
Hate
mark.
that thing. Hate it.
Let's see. Grizzlies, we have for the starting lineup, Scottie Pippen Jr., Desmond Bane, Jalen Wells, Santi Aldama, and Triple J. So if you guys see a starting lineup that is different than this one that we have here on screen, it means that we're going to be having a projections update that will be coming our way. But as of right now, the expectation is that Santi Aldama will be starting. Aldama, somebody making his way into your lineups, Eric?
If I were playing on FanDuel, I know I built out lineups before the show over on FanDuel that are completely irrelevant and don't matter anymore, but they had a lot of Santi Aldama. I'd be surprised if it just completely trimmed into oblivion. But pulling my first run here, since all of this got updated, I have 2% Santi Aldama.
All right. Yeah, I've got my final run going right now. I assume I'll have a couple lineups of Santi Aldama, maybe a little bit more.
I want
than
ownership
2%
to run one more time. We just got a projections update a minute ago. I'm assuming that means we're getting an ownership update right behind it. So correct me if I'm wrong, Rich. I know you were in chat, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, probably be another update in like 2 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
But let's finish answering these questions here. Chris Albers, favorite plays GPP position DK. Okay, so he wants us to go through perfect timing because I just finished the sim run. Let's go through the players that we like the most at each position for tournament. So it could be somebody contrarian, it could be somebody chalky. You could answer this whichever way you want to. At point guard, though, I mean, I've Dennis Schroeder 99% of my lineup, so it's hard for me to not say he's the guy.
Well, why would you leave that 1% up to chance? Don't do it. Don't do it. I have 100 of him, and second favorite Darius Garland. I just love him for tournaments. SGA also.
Yep, I'm way overweight to field on Garland. We've got him projected right now for his ownership came down, which makes sense because Dennis Schroeder ended up showing up in so many of the field's lineups after the last run. But we've got 16% projected ownership to Darius Garland. I'm 2x the field on him, so I like him a lot as an option. I'm overweight to Ty Jerome as well. So you know what I'll do? I'll go Garland at point guard so I could go Dennis Schroeder at shooting guard.
See, that's very nice of you. I kind of like that you did that. Payne, just because we haven't said his name and he matters. And then yeah, I don't actually believe that I'm going to end up with that much of Desmond Bane. So I'm going to go Vince Williams Jr.
Okay. Yeah, and Chris did ask us specifically about Desmond Bane and what our thoughts are on him for GPP. I'm underweight to the field to him. I don't have an issue with Desmond Bane himself. Other than there's a lot of cheap guards now that are in play on this slate. My overall favorite guard, if I'm going to be a little bit more on the expensive end, is the aforementioned Darius Garland. In general, though, Eric, I prefer to spend up in the front court the center spot, forward, and either the forward spots or center. I'm going cheap at guard today.
It's hard not to some extent, but also I do want to have access to the SGA ceiling. I just have to. I have to. And Darius Garland's just underpriced, even at 8K with his rates, but that's neither here nor there.
And then if we go ahead and look at small forward, and I just realized that I didn't switch over to this screen right here, so I wasn't showing the I didn't show the starting lineups page that I was trying to show people before. But anyway, starting lineups page, you guys could see all of the information right there. Anyway, if we go and look at the small forward spot, at small forward for me, that is going to be Asar Thompson as the player. I'm surprised that he's not projected for more ownership. 20%, I'm way overweight to him.
Yeah, again, it's just going to look weird. Box scores, I think, are going to make people very uncomfortable. He got in horrible foul trouble. I have to repeat that for you. He disappeared, and you could not have gotten a better game from Marcus Sasser and Ron Howland in a million years. They didn't need to bring him off the floor. They just kind of wrote it out. So I totally get it. Play Asar Thompson.
All right. And now at the power forward. Asar Thompson. All right. So power forward. I'm going to go with Andrew Wiggins.
Okay.
Yourself?
I'll go Bam Adebayo.
And then at center for me, here's a contrarian spend up that I'm 2x the field on, Şengün.
Love Şengün, love Cat, love Duren, love a lot of centers.
All right, next question here. T. Willis wants to know favorite FanDuel GPP last man in, Jimmy Butler or Jaren Jackson Jr. So between Jimmy Butler and Jaren Jackson Jr., one thing that is definitely going to make a little bit of a difference between the two sites is on FanDuel, we're getting the extra point for the defensive stats. I prefer Triple J over on FanDuel to Jimmy Butler. Both of them really strong options, though. Yourself, Jimmy Butler, Triple J. Keep in mind, this is a FanDuel specific question.
Butler by a mile. I was getting so much of him before the Curry news running lineups.
Okay. Your towel. Beasley cheaper than Schroeder on FanDuel preference. I like both of them. I like Dennis Schroeder more than Malik Beasley, though.
No, you stupid towel.
Your towel.
Your towel.
Yourself?
You guys want to go get hot?
Same answer, I assume?
Yeah, same answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Towel. Now we'll get back to Discord here. We've got a bunch of Discord questions came in. All right. Sally Salas, Kessler Edwards, a safe play on FanDuel? No, he's not safe. He's a very good play, though. I don't really care that much about safe for tournaments, but Kessler Edwards is an immense amount of upside. It's the last day of his contract, so who knows what the Mavericks do with him. But there's an absolute opportunity for him to just go play 36 minutes or something like that. And at his price point on FanDuel and DraftKings, there's a ceiling there. Bando, Mobley. Oh, boy. 3v3. Mobley, Pippen, and Payne, or Schroeder, Butler, and Edwards? Schroeder, Butler, and Edwards.
Yep. Second one.
Don't be soy. Do we adjust field ownership on a player in the pre-contest simulator? You do it in the contest generator. If you go to the contest generator, and if you were to have I haven't built out on this computer the lineups, but I'll do an example for you really quick here, and we'll talk and answer all the questions while this runs here. Modub T, getting to any Sasser as a cheap punt early. Let's see. Did I land on? I did not end up playing Sasser, Eric.
I ended up with 1.2%. What a time to be alive out of 190 lineups.
M. Grizzly, anybody that we're boosting or doing anything in preparation for late swap? I actually think all the guys who are questionable are going to play today. I don't have any real strong stance on somebody sitting. So I just kind of played it straight up. And then, from the early games, I can't ignore guys like Jalen Duren or guys like Dennis Schroeder in the absence of Cade Cunningham. So I'm good with playing guys from the Detroit Pistons. So yourself, Eric, anything you're either downgrading somebody to give yourself more flexibility for late swap or upgrading anybody?
Nope, I ain't doing shit.
All right. Back to the question we got from Don't Be Soy. Here's what you do. All right. So if you wanted to boost the projected ownership of a player, which keep in mind, this is to up the projected ownership of a player. This is not to change the amount of exposure you get to the player. The only time you do this is if you think a player is going to be more or less popular than we have projected on the site. So you go here, you go to Jimmy Butler. See right now, we have him project for 31.3% ownership. So he's in 31.5% of the field's lineups. That's over on FanDuel. If you thought he was going to be more popular than that, you would boost his ownership here. You would regenerate. By the way, I don't think he's going to be less popular or more popular than our FanDuel projection. I just think he's going to be more popular than what, like the 16% DraftKings ownership projection we had on him. So I know I'm running a FanDuel pool right now, but it's the same for both FanDuel and DraftKings as far as the process. So you just give them a couple of up arrows, depending how much more popular you think that player is going to be. You could do up to 99 of them. And then you'll see here that because I gave him a couple of up arrows, we now have the pool exposure at 40.5% to Jimmy Butler. So that means when you simulate out the contest, it'll be under the assumption that Jimmy Butler is 40% owned. So that's how I go about doing it for these sort of scenarios. And that is going to have us all caught up in questions in Discord. We do have one more super chat here. We've got Coley Poston says, I'm hearing all the Butler revenge chat, but what about Wiggins? He's been on a heater. Yeah, I just like Wiggins today. I think Wiggins is a really strong option.
And you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater.
Yeah. Did you end up getting too much of Wiggins?
30% of him, so yes.
Yeah, my final number on Wiggins is... Well, I shouldn't say final number because you never know what might happen with late swap stuff. But at least heading into lock, I have 40% of Wiggins. I think he's a really, really strong play.
Seems like a lot.
It is. I like him. I like him a whole bunch. Also, if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And about a minute from now, I'm going to be joined by Josh over in Playback, where we are going to be going over everything. Any sort of late swap, we'll be reacting to the games, some bets. We'll talk anything that shows up in Portfolio EV that looks appealing over the course of the show. But before we do head on over to Playback, Eric, I want to know from you, any final thoughts on the slate? Either anything that you think could end up altering your lineups post-lock, or maybe somebody you're just nervous about completely ruining your lineups.
Yeah, this is just such a wild one. I mean, if you do get everybody out from OKC, there are lots of things that are going to stand out. Isaiah Hartenstein, SGA, maybe Alex Caruso, but the main one being Kenrich Williams as a value piece at 3,400. If you get both of those pieces there, they have a lot more guys in the backcourt than they have in that front court. They can kind of rotate things around. Obviously, at the center position, I think it's pretty much Hartenstein and Jalen with a Y Williams, who's been an absolute goat when getting minutes. But I just kind of look at it as one of those slates where whatever happens, happens, because the value right now, early on, is so damn good now. It's just kind of changed. And then the other one is Memphis' starting lineup. Keep that in the back of your mind. Zach Edey's 4,500. If he ends up getting a startup against Walker Kessler, I will try to find my way onto a little bit, but not much to worry about considering we already have Scottie Pippen. We already have some other pieces that are kind of lingering in that evening window with Darius Garland, Denny Avdia. So for me, playing the slate pretty darn straight up for one, which will have some late swap components, but that does not mean you don't jump to Playback right now. Go check out Playback because we don't have the Miami or Golden State starting lineups. That could dictate a lot. We need Kessler Edwards starting for Dallas. There's still so much to be determined. Keep your head on a swivel. Have some fun. Let's go get that money.
All right, guys. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And now it's time for Playback. Come join Josh and I over there. Starting lineup changes, late scratches. Who the hell knows what can end up happening? It's the NBA. Keep yourself updated on all the news by joining us in Playback. The link, it has been dropped into the YouTube channel. Simply click on that and join us over on Playback. Good luck tonight, everybody.